Welcome to r /entitled people, where these entitled strangers shave off this unfortunate man's hair in the middle of the night. Friends cut my hair against my will. So this one time during lockdown, I decided to grow my red beard and grow my hair out because I wanted to see what it was like, you know. Now because I only live with my wife and my kids, I decided it was a challenge for myself to do it. My wife was fine with it, just with the occasional ginger joke thrown at me. Anywho, a friend of mine, let's call him Billy, invited me to stay at his house with two other people, Jane and Russell. Now, I'm not really that close with them, they're just friends with my wife, and we've hung out sometimes. So I get to the house and they immediately start to belittle me because of my new look, saying I look like a hippie and a homeless guy, and they tell me I should cut it. I say no, and the rest of the day was nothing but ginger jokes and insults. I was gonna leave in the morning, so I decided to get some rest on the couch. I took my sleeping pills and passed out. When I woke up, I saw a bunch of red locks of hair on me. And when I went to the bathroom, I saw my hair was cut insanely short. It was almost a buzz cut, and my beard was also shaven off to a handlebar moustache. I confronted them and they didn't deny it, saying how much nicer I looked and that the stash suits me. They then got sappy, saying that they were going to donate my hair to cancer charity and my red curls were going to make someone really happy. I left and never came back. My wife has also stopped hanging out with them as well. You know what? This story just makes me sad, honestly. It's just why? Why do that to somebody? You don't even know them. It's a friend of a friend, and you're first of all bullying them by saying that their hair and beard looks terrible. Why said it in the first place? That's a disgusting thing to say. Even if you think it, don't say it. Come on. Then secondly, actually shaving off someone's hair. Is that not assault or something? I don't know the laws, but guys, comment down below. Surely you can't just go and randomly shave someone's hair and beard off, can you? That must be some form of assault. It's just ridiculous. And I'm happy, OP, that your wife has stopped hanging out with them, realizing they are terrible people. At least that's some sort of positive. But yeah, I'm sorry this happened. Against your will, having your hair cut and shaved. Terrible. Now moving on to our next entitled people post. My brother wanted to propose to his girlfriend at my upcoming wedding. I said no, and all of this happened. I am a 27-year-old male, and I'll start this off by saying that my wedding is scheduled for April, because my fiance, who is 25, has always dreamed of a spring wedding. And I really like the idea too. I've got an older brother though, who is 30, and last Saturday, I was called over to my parents' house to talk about something. For whatever reason, they refused to tell me what it was until I got there. Then, they sat me down with my brother and told me that my brother wants to use my wedding as the perfect day for him to propose to his girlfriend. I was instantly mad and told them absolutely not, but they ganged up on me. I ended up so enraged to the point that I, one man, somehow backed all three of them into a corner. I told them that if they want to do this, then not only will they all be uninvited, but I'll also cut off all the financial support I've been giving monthly since they paid to have my golden child brother go through college by taking out a second mortgage. I landed a decently high-paying job, and I've been sending $500 to my parents monthly to help ease their mortgage. And I didn't even ask for a stake in the ownership of their house either, because I really don't want it. It was entirely goodwill, and I can cut it off anytime. I left without speaking any more to them. But my brother came to my home the next day to yell at me that I ruined his big chance. Because now our parents are siding with me and say they'll evict him if he tries to propose at my wedding. He said I was financially blackmailing our parents and that he just wanted a good chance to propose because he was afraid his girlfriend might leave him soon. I said that was his problem, not mine, because my wedding day is not about him. And if he tries to propose at my wedding, I will have him thrown out. That's not a maybe, but a definite. And I doubt his girlfriend would appreciate her proposal, followed up with being tossed out by a bouncer. He yelled a few choice words at me, then went crying to our only surviving grandparents, our maternal grandmother. And she called to try and ream me over the phone. No surprise, my brother heavily embellished the version of the story he told her, but she still sided with him even after I gave her the real story. She tried to hold her ground, but the verbal backlash I ended up giving her left her crying. That got back to my parents, who were angry at me for taking things so far. But I told them I only went that far because I had to, when they were all trying to get me to let my brother use my wedding as his springboard for a proposal. They ended up agreeing with me, but they still stated they feel like I'm crass, and my brother showed up at my home again to scream at me that I'm a butthole, and I hope I'm happy with myself for not allowing him the opportunity. My fiance knows what my brother tried to do, and she's very angry about it. She's almost ready to have him uninvited if he pursues this any further. Normally, I have a very mild temper, but when it comes to certain people, like my brother, parents, and grandmother, I can easily get short with them because of all the past favoritism. My grandmother especially, she always sided with my brother and believed his lies no matter what he did. She's the biggest reason my parents favored my brother too. She kept trying to convince me over the phone to let my brother propose at my wedding that I ended up losing it on her. I ended up speaking with my brother again and threatened to tell his girlfriend if he was still intending to propose at my wedding without permission. He took that poorly and called me an awful person, so I pointed out that my wedding isn't about him. Our parents were there for this, and they backed me up. I think my brother did a double take when they did that. My dad pointed out that he'd raised my brother wrong, and that was on him. So, from now on, my brother was to show them real respect, and they wanted to get an official lease drawn up for him to pay proper rent and utilities. He was only paying them $300 a month without contributing to any utilities or food. And if he doesn't want to pay, he can move out and they'll rent his room to someone else. My brother turned to our mum for help, but she just agreed with dad. He looked like he was having a conniption and then left the house. He came back a couple of hours later, but spoke to no one and locked himself in his room. 2 days later, my brother announced he was moving in with grandma because she invited him. And our parents basically told him that if he wants to live with her, then go ahead. My brother responded to this by saying we all hate him for just wanting to propose to his girlfriend. My parents pointed out that it's not that he wanted to propose, but where he wanted to do it, and he'd get no support for it. He's refusing to talk to our parents now. My grandmother did try and call me again, but it ended up with me telling her that my brother will not be allowed to propose at my wedding, plain and simple. So he can get over it or not come. And the same goes for her. I ended up calling her out on her favoritism towards my brother since we were kids, which she tried to deny at first, but couldn't keep doing so because of how much I'd pointed out. She ended up crying again while I told her that if she keeps trying to insist on this, then she won't be coming to my wedding. She begged me not to rescind her invite, but still said she doesn't understand why I couldn't let my brother have his way before ending the call. My fiance is 100% on my side and is fully ready to remove my brother and grandmother from the wedding. My grandmother hasn't called again, and she's not talking to my parents either. My guess is my brother went crying to her again to tell her mummy and daddy weren't enabling him anymore, so she offered for him to move in with her. But there's literally nothing she can do to sway me, and I think my last conversation with her made her realize that. I didn't wish to tell my brother's girlfriend, but she called me up on a Saturday about my Reddit post. She'd seen it read in an online video and then realized it might be me with the way I described my brother and grandmother. So yeah, now she knows. She ended up telling my brother a new butthole, and he still tried to justify himself to her. That's when she told him they were through and cut all contact with him. My brother, of course, blamed me, even though his girlfriend said that she's been ready to leave him for a while now, and if he tried to propose, no matter where, she'd have told him no. So that's it. My brother showed up at my place one more time to have a fit and said that he's boycotting my wedding. He actually thought he had leverage that he and grandma won't go. But I said I wouldn't miss him and that he's in his 30s now and needs to grow up. Our parents have cut the umbilical cord and are no longer supporting him. And they're already repainting his room to rent it to somebody else. And they plan on renting out my old bedroom as well because they need the money after the financial hole he left them in after dropping out of college, just to mooch off them for a while and then get a degree with online college later, and then barely pay any rent while also making them pay for his food and utilities despite having a good paying job. They spent the world on him and he wasn't the least bit grateful. That made my brother just shut down and leave. And since then, we've not heard a peep out of him. That's everything that's happened from my original post up till now. I mean, guys, this story, as I'm sure you will agree, just is beyond belief. You can choose anywhere in the world and any moment, any time to propose to your girlfriend. But no, you think the best idea is to do it at your brother's wedding. I'm not even going to comment really on how ridiculous that is because it's just so obvious and just so dumb. You know what's even funnier and just kind of shows how dumb your brother is, OP? The fact that he wasn't even sure whether he was going to stay with his current girlfriend or not. And then he was like, oh, don't worry, if I get engaged to her, then yeah, we'll be fine. It's like, you're probably not in the best place to get engaged to someone when you're not sure you want to be with them in the first place. And then they subsequently say, and it's probably quite obvious at the time, no, I don't actually want to be with you, full stop. Let alone get engaged. Are you ridiculous? And definitely not at your brother's wedding. I'll be honest, I'm slightly confused as to how your parents' opinions changed very quickly from siding with your brother to suddenly siding with you and then realizing that they've brought up your brother wrong and all that rubbish. Bit weird. Your grandma, also very weird. At least she stayed with her opinion though. I'll back her for that. Overall, a very, very strange story. Why would you ever want to propose at your brother's wedding? I don't know. And now moving on to our third story. My entitled nephews stole from me one time too many. This time, I got them arrested, and now my sister and brother-in-law have to deal with the fallout. And I really don't care anymore. In a prior post in a different subreddit, I asked if I was the bad guy for wanting to call police on my nephews for stealing from me. And the overwhelming support I got made me realize that standing my ground was the best thing for me to do. About midway last week, when I came home from work, I noticed my shed door was open, and the padlock that I used to keep it shut was broken. And I had a lot of bags full of soda cans in there. I and my friends tend to drink a lot of soda, so I built up a lot of cans over the course of a year. And I was going to cash them in at the bottle drop soon because I like big payouts. It's 10 cents a can where I live after all. But there was more than just my bags of cans missing from the shed too. They took my gardening shears, a steel rake, 2 shovels, one of them being one of those folding camping ones, a full 2-gallon gas can, a cheap power drill I got for like $5 used, an electric hedge trimmer, a small electric chainsaw that was also used, and a machete. They didn't touch a lawnmower, weed whacker, extension cords, or the old radio I had in there. No idea why they took what they did, but I guess they figured they could resell it or something. I checked my camera footage, and there were my 3 nephews, ages 16, 15, and 14, breaking into my shed with one of their dad's large claw hammers. I recognized the hammer because it's bright yellow and black, and their dad has a bunch of them. It only took them a few hits to smash that cheap lock. After they first broke into my shed, they took what they could by hand. And then they came back with some shopping carts that I'm guessing they also stole. But it took them a few trips to get all of the cans, and they didn't even bother to try and close the door when they were done. My sister and brother-in-law first denied their kids stole anything from me. So I went to their house and showed them the security footage from my cameras. I'd not told them I'd had cameras installed. And the reason I had them in the first place was because of prior thefts by my nephews. It started with food and snacks, and then moved on to DVDs and video games. Then pretty much anything they thought they could smuggle out after that. And anytime I made them return stuff they'd stolen from me, I was treated like the bad guy and then got the fakest apologies I've ever heard. And they never got in much trouble from their parents either. The final straw happened last year, when my nephews broke into my house and stole 3 6-packs of my favourite blood orange beer from my fridge. They used my hidden spare key to get in, and also took a huge dump in one of my bathrooms, and not only didn't flush, but also peed all over the floor, and I'm pretty sure it was intentional. Wow. The beer they stole was hidden in one of their bedrooms when I confronted my sister and brother-in-law about them stealing it, and I was basically given an equivalent to boys will be boys when I wanted them punished. So I had the cameras put in and told no one, which was a smart move. When my sister and brother-in-law saw the camera footage of my nephew stealing from me, they seemed furious. But they were actually madder that their boys skipped school to steal from me. They spent all day making repeated trips to the bottle drop and cashing their cans by machine. The bottle drop also pays by machine. So they just kept bringing the cans in till they cashed them all. And then they bought video games and junk food with the money. Said money actually amounted to nearly $200. With that and the destroyed padlock, I told my sister and brother-in-law that they now owed me $200. My sister and brother-in-law went from being angry at their kids to making excuses for them, and then being angry at me for wanting that money back when I know they have 3 kids and a mortgage. I said it was either that or I go to the police and press charges. They told me to get out, and I said they have 2 days to decide how to pay me back before I go to the cops. I got back everything else my nephew stole, machete and gas can included, though they'd already used the gas for something. But over the next couple of days, my sister and brother-in-law were blowing up my phone with a ton of messages, both verbal and text. At first, they were calling me heartless because it was right after the holidays and they have 3 kids and a mortgage. Then they started gaslighting me. Then even threatening me. And all of this would go in a repeating cycle. My nephews chimed in from another cell phone and were sending me lots of messages of their own, which were more fake apologies and gaslighting. My eldest nephew even sent me a picture of himself holding a soda can and giving me the middle finger. So I guess they weren't taking my threats of going to the police seriously, because family. When I last spoke with my sister and my brother-in-law, they refused to negotiate any sort of method of repayment for what my nephews did. Even when I suggested they just sell the video games that were purchased with the money from the cans. Then they had the audacity to say I'd actually tempted my nephews by having the cans in my shed to begin with. Oh yes, I'm the devil snake that tempted my nephews with a shed full of cans that just screamed money, money, money. So that was it. I went to the police station that morning and filed the reports. I gave them a copy of the video footage of my nephews stealing from my shed. I gave them the broken lock they smashed. I showed them all the texts, which were screenshotted and also given as evidence. Heck, I even gave them a copy of the photo my eldest nephew sent me of him flipping me off. I did tell police that I found it worrisome that my nephews had taken the machete, but they classified it as a tool, especially since they took a lot of other actual tools. So fair enough on that, I suppose. But my nephews were indeed arrested on Saturday. Police came to their house, and my sister and brother-in-law were forced to let them in because they had a warrant. Apparently, all 3 of my nephews went from being cocky little idiots to crying like babies when they were being put in cuffs. I know this because a neighbour I'm acquainted with that's sort of friends with my sister was there to see it. And shortly after the arrest, my sister and brother-in-law were blowing up my phone again. They weren't able to get their kids out of jail until Monday morning, and now the boys are being charged with larceny, willful destruction of property, vandalism, and harassment. The police took this whole case pretty seriously, as there have been complaints about my nephews for some time. But nothing was proven until now. The past few months, bags of cans have actually been going missing all over the area. I don't know if it was all my nephews or not, but they're likely suspects. And with word spreading of their arrest, let's hope other neighbours with security cameras come forward with more footage. My sister and brother-in-law showed up at my house too. I refused to open the door and told them that this all happened because they are enablers who refuse to hold their kids accountable for their actions. That made them just scream and pound on my door more till I threatened to call the police on them too. And since I've done it already, they know I mean it now. So they left without any more trouble. But they then went back to blowing up my phone. I didn't block my sister or my brother-in-law. Instead, I decided to just save all of the messages they send me because I've made the decision to take them to small claims court over this. I don't really need or want the money, and I've already replaced a destroyed padlock with a much better one, but the kids aren't the only ones who need to be taught a lesson. In the end, I hope I put them in enough of a hole that they learn not to screw with me ever again. I also have the full support of my family on this. My parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, etc. They are all supporting me in this because my nephews have stolen from them too. And after banning my nephews from my house, some of them did the same. I'm going to push for my nephews to get community service. And the reason why isn't just because it's a good idea, but also because I know that they'll hate that the most. Whenever they're made to do any kind of work they don't want to, they just stand around griping and act like the whole world is against them. So hardly anything ever gets done. Well, perhaps a few hundred hours of unpaid work will teach them some manners. They've been spoiled far too much. Well, yeah, OP, I agree with every little thing you said there, especially the fact that they've been spoiled too much. Look, clearly they're not nice people in the first place, but you have to put some blame on their parents, which is exactly what you've done. It's tough, because they're family, but I'm sorry, they're not good parents. And I like the fact that you're like, you know what, yeah, we've got the nephews arrested, but now we need some punishment on my sister and brother-in-law. I'm sorry, they're the ones that have raised them to be this bad. Look, it's all well and good giving these kids community service, and look, hopefully they're young enough that they're gonna understand and be educated and learn that stealing is not a good thing. And in fact, in most places around the world, it's quite illegal. However, for the parents, they're going to come back to them, aren't they? These kids, once they've finished their time, they're going to come back to the house. If the parents haven't changed their ways of being a good parent and learning how to teach their kids not to steal and how to be good members of society, then what's the point? In reality, it's the parents that really need to learn. Although the kids need to as well, let's be honest. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this episode of r/entitled people. Really hope you've enjoyed this one. If you did and you want more from me and from the subreddit right away, check it out on screen. If you are new to the channel and you haven't already done so, hit this button. And also, check me out on Spotify, Apple, or anything else. Amazing. I post the videos on there too.